Okay. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Leslie.
Thank you so much for being here today. I can't express the gratitude I think that Lisette and I have that you were able to, we just texted you yesterday and we were like, can we do this tomorrow? And so just so grateful for your presence and your work. And I'm going to introduce you if that's okay.
Yes,
And we will get started. All right. Let me see. Have your bio here. Okay. Technology. All right. Well, it's giving people time. Okay. So Ruth Beaglehole is a consultant, trainer, and parenting expert in both the private and public sector for over 50 years. She was the founder of Echo Parenting and Education, an organization supporting parents and teachers to break the cycle of early family violence by learning the philosophy of nonviolent child raising. Ruth has led parenting groups for decades and has taken the work of nonviolence in raising children to communities in New Zealand, India, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That is so vast, and it's not even like the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
So I'm gonna just start off by asking you, why did you agree to do this? Why were you so down?
Well, first of all, I'm at home.
Yes.
I'm in a time of social isolation, so I actually was thrilled with the idea of being able to reach out. And the other reason, sort of less personal, is this is a scary time, and we need to know that we're all interconnected as we go through this. And it mattered to me to sort of be able to join a community of people who are wanting to consciously think about this and think about how do we not go into total fear mode and panic mode, but really think about our children and think about how to get through this in the best possible way.
Yes, thank you. And then just in general, what would you like to give? I think that a lot of us are experiencing uncertainty and fear. So I hope to just understand like what the overall goal I think for this conversation is. What would feel important for you, for people to come away from it feeling?
That's a really good question. And I think I would like to begin by saying a definition of courage that I've heard recently that sort of, I think, resonates. And it's dance with fear and uncertainty and the strength of heart.
Wow.
Dance with fear and uncertainty with the strength of heart. And when I heard that definition, I thought about today that we are living in a time of fear and uncertainty. We have no idea what's to come. We know what we're living through at this moment, but we know we're living through with uncertainty. And I really value the concept of strength of heart. And to me, that as parents, what does that look like, that strength of heart, as we support our children through this time? An unprecedented time in many of our histories. And yet I believe that we can find strength and ways to reframe what's happened so that we actually can give our children something very special during this time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, just soaking that in, because I myself have been experiencing that uncertainty that you're talking about. There's chaos happening. I was just at Target looking for diapers and I couldn't find some diapers, and it was, you're trying to keep that normalcy and you're trying to keep that, and people are saying keep your stress levels down, and at the same time you're just kind of seeing this chaos everywhere. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you ever experienced, in all of your years of supporting parents, have you ever experienced anything like this?
Well, probably yes, in different degrees. I remember, when there was LAUSD got shut down,
Mm.
over the gun violence issue. I
Yeah.
mean, I think actually maybe not this big enough, but sometimes it feels like we're all walking on a tightrope, and there are times personal issues, maybe a family's going through a divorce or mourning, a loss, where it feels huge and it
Mm.
feels full of fear and uncertainty. And what's incredible about this one is that this is community-wide. This is actually worldwide,
Yes,
I talk to
absolutely.
my relatives in New Zealand, and it's
Mm.
like worldwide that this is happening. And a response that many people are having with their panic is to do things like go buy endless amount of toilet paper.
Yeah.
The scenes at Costco, our local Vaughn's had to close last night because the shelves were empty.
Mm.
And that makes sense to me in one way that, we're looking, trying to figure out a way. We don't know. We're living with uncertainty. We don't know. So, buying and getting this and getting, is a response. And on top of this, families with children have now lost one of their major support systems, which is sending children to school.
Mm.
And that's huge. I don't think I've ever, schools closed for a day or two or something, but this is a major closure. We say they're going to open on a certain date, but nobody has a crystal ball.
Mm.
And the ramifications for children, the fear for many working parents, those who have to take the bus, those who are hourly people, are they going to have a job? Who's going to pay their rent? How are they going to feed their families? We are, I just, the panic makes sense to me. The response of trying to do what you can do to sort of structure some sort of safety, And so it's unprecedented in that sense.
Yeah.
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 And I just, I walk around with my empathy hands open to, how are we going to join with each other to give empathy, to receive empathy? Can't do it. We can't get together. We have to find other ways, like through other ways of being socially connected, because it's a basic human need, that sense of connection, that sense of belonging. And how do we find that? And how do we support people who we know might not have resources to find other ways to do it, because we must have it during this time.
Yes, thank you. I think you're right that this is like the perfect opportunity to practice that nonviolence, right? And to hold that empathy, and something that I've really been seeing online, because we're so desperate, I think, to feel safe again. What's been interesting is that I've been seeing a lot of people judging other people for things like the toilet paper hoarding, right? And so just being online, I've been seeing, like, just a lot of shaming of parents.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much that empathy. And so it's also easy for me to slip into that shaming, right? Or that judgment for parents when I go to Target and there's no diapers and I'm like, ah. And so
Right.
what do you think, just in the spirit of nonviolence, what are some of the things that we can do, I think, to kind of embody that empathy and to release those kinds of judgments?
Well, I just want to say, by the way, that, people's stereotypes have been coming to the fore, and there's been some really ugly accounts of racism and, just, it came from China, terrible racism towards people of Asian descent. So this is something those of us who must hold and counter with our education, tools to educate people, tools to give empathy. But I want to share maybe this concept of finding the yes behind the no. I was thinking about that. There's no, we can't go to the playground. No, yes, we are home, but no, we're not going to go to the playground. No, you can't have play dates. Just a lot of like, no, we can't go and get an ice cream. We can't do many of the usual things that we do to support our family and our children. And so how do we reframe this? How do we reframe it? How do we find the yes behind it? The yes is that we're doing everything to protect our families. They're all making lists of all the things that we actually can do. That, if we are able to create play opportunities within our homes, if we're able to access different, maybe learning, the Discovery Channel and learning about different animals, or, Animal World or things like that. What is it that we can do? At the same time, holding the grief for children, the mourning about what the limitations, really having them understand what the social sort of isolation actually means, educating them with some facts, but making sure that we're not terrifying them. We're actually saying, this is what we're doing to keep our family healthy. And that's our most important thing, is how do we keep our family healthy? And because we're doing that, these are some of the things we can't do. And these are the things we can do. And of course, as children get older, they'll want more information. And how do we censor, in a sense, what we want to tell them? So we're not, it's not knocking at the door, we're actually keeping ourselves safe. We're doing the things that we can do as a family. And yes, that might mean that we're not going to see grandma and grandpa right now, like holding the grief and the mourning for some of the loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so much to ask. I'm just thinking like there are and this isn't necessarily to challenge you, but I'm just, holding our own feelings is already so much.
Right.
Staying self-regulated is already so much. And some of these experiences that we're having with fear, they're not even necessarily conscious. They're not even like something that we can say, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling afraid. And I would imagine that we also need those outlets for receiving that safety. And so, I think if we are in a position where, fortunately I have the privilege of staying home and I have a pretty extended community and I'm constantly in contact with other members of my community, and we're having these conversations via text so that we're kind of soothing each other and supporting each other. But what could we do about families that maybe don't sense that community and maybe don't have those tools to be able to regulate or to, do their own work first, I guess? I think that there's some privilege in that needs to be addressed too.
Well, of course, those of us who are able to see this as an opportunity where we can reach out to other people and support them in ways that is safe, I think is incredibly important. But, I think this is an issue for all of us. I don't think this is, it is so hard to manage our own fear and then be able to pause and breathe and really be there for our children. It's going to be, and there will be times that we lose it, but we remember that we can always go back and repair. We can always go back and do a do-over. None of us are going to do this perfectly. This is adding on our shoulders a huge load that we have to monitor and try to figure out how to. Maybe it's creating an altar for ourselves, a regulation altar, something that's, oh God, I'm going to walk by, even picking a dandelion from the garden and putting it in a vase and okay, every time I walk by there, I'm going to take a breath, you know, I'm going to be able to try to find ways to regulate myself.
Mm.
I don't have any easy answers for this. This is a practice. And when we're living with such stress and such fear, and maybe worrying about loved ones, maybe worrying about people that who knows who's going to get sick, you know?
Yeah.
It's asking a lot of us. It's
Mm.
asking a lot. And what those of us who've lived this philosophy of nonviolent parenting maybe have some resources that we can use for ourselves, empathy for ourselves, but also share these with other people. I can't say that just do this, that'll calm your fear, you know, or, you know, I do know some things are going to be important. Some things like keeping routines in the family, keeping the narrative, the day-to-day story and what's happening in the family alive, making books for younger children, talking with older children, letter writing to people they love, you know, when they begin to miss their friends. You know, ways that we can emphasize connection, I think are really important at a time when we're sort of being told we have disconnection, but that's one kind, that's social disconnection in person. That doesn't mean disconnection from all these other ways that we have to keep some sense of normality. Routines keep some sense of normality. And for those of you who have children who are going to be home from school, you know, they're going to, I bet you're going to fight screens. I bet you're going to get off that screen. You've been on that screen all day, you know. And
were you at my house yesterday?
Want to find that we actually are going to loosen some of our tightness about some of those things. If we don't have board games in the house, we might have to, with older kids at least, create some games, you know, use some, you know, as I said, you know, or find like things on the, you know, I know the PBS stations are going to have learning opportunities for children. I sure hope they're not dittos and, you know, I hope they're exciting opportunities, but, you know, as I said before, using some of the discovery channels and stuff that could actually, you know, provoke some interesting conversations. It's going to be challenging. We're going to have to be pulled, you know, to find that yes behind the no. We're going to have to work at it. And I do want to hold and very compassionately, for some families who maybe are leaving, going to have to leave their children at home alone. You know, we have this, remember the whole conversation we used to have about latchkey kids? You know, and I mean, this is maybe a social necessity now that children are going to stay home alone. If you can think about who lives on your block, if you live in an apartment building, can you reach out? Maybe you don't want to invite those children into your homes, but you certainly can make sure that you know who they are and in contact with them, and bake something and drop it at the doorstep. You know, how do you, and how do we give empathy, deep empathy and compassion for those workers who are not working in places where they're getting any sort of compensation, you know? And is there something that I can help my children, if my children are an age, to understand community level of compassion, you know? There's also something that I really should mention. We might find well, some of you have told me you already have a lot of fighting between siblings. I know that drives so many of us crazy. Oh, how am I going to understand? There's probably going to be more of it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
already can't
Okay.
stand
Okay.
it. So, just understanding that children are going to be bored, children are going to be stressed, children are going to be, some of it, maybe institutions, some roughhousing in the family, some coordinated roughhousing safely to get some of that physical energy out.
Right.
And then, of course, finding those skills, remembering core basic human needs, remembering to give empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And to, oh my God, they're fighting again. Let me breathe, let me breathe, let me breathe.
Yeah, I just screamed, this yesterday. I think and it wasn't even like there's had been no mandate for my daughter who's 8 to stay home. And last night they were fighting again, and I just went, please stop, and caught myself. But it was, sometimes I'm like, why am I teaching this stuff? But
Well,
I think something that you said
nobody does it perfectly. It's the hardest
yes,
thing we do. And it's
yes.
going to be, this is a period where we're going to be called on to find patience in places that we haven't had to find them in the past.
Absolutely.
And along with that patience, to find empathy and understanding. I do want to say one more thing, for those of us who watch the news, it's frightening, isn't it? And I really would suggest being very mindful of how much information, how much news, how much of the sort of dire statistics and stuff that we talk about with our children. It's a time to be mindful about that. Because when children hear things and they don't have a wider perspective or any perspective to understand it, it can add to the terror of what's already going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that suggestion because it's such a routine of mine. In the morning, I listen to Democracy Now! And most of the time, I think, some of the things that are happening, it opens up conversation with my 8-year-old. And I just started myself feeling just so anxious. It was just one thing after another. And the way that, the country is dealing with it is scary. And so I had to turn it off. And, if I can listen to it privately later, if it feels good, then I'll listen to it privately later. But yes, I think that that's such a crucial point, is that exposure, will make a difference if we can be mindful.
Along with that is the fact that we keep reassuring our children that there are people out there who are really, doctors and nurses and scientists who are really holding this for us and are really doing all the work that needs to be done. And that we, sometimes it's hard when you maybe don't trust some of the spokespeople, but to find those that we can, we know that they've got our best interests. The school, those teachers and those people that decided to close the school, the administrators, they did it because it was in our best interest. They didn't do it to mess with us. They did it because they have decided this is the best strategy to keep us safe. And keeping us safe, keeping us protected, keeping us in a way, held with protection and safety is really important to emphasize to children. And we trust those people. And because we trust those people, we're not, as I said before, we're not going to go to the playgrounds. We're not going to the movie theaters. We're not going to go and do everything that we, and maybe not going to see our, for older kids who want to have, this is a time, wow, my gosh, I got these 2 weeks. I want to go socialize. I want to go to the mall. No. It may be really hard to understand why this isn't like a free time to do all those things that you would love to do with your friends. No. And there may be some loss that children are going to experience. So holding narrative, we talk about this a lot in this philosophy, holding the story, holding what's alive for each child, holding that, holding the bigger picture, managing what's alive for us. Last thing I might want to do is to be shut up in my house, you know, with my children all day, you know. Or I might be a parent who's actually going to work and leaving my children home alone, and you know, with little support. And that would be the last thing I want to do. So many narratives out there right now, so much fear, so much. And how do we manage all that tension and panic and find the opportunities that will be here for us?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a crucial word, you know, the opportunity piece, because we can be really creative. You know, we can have FaceTime play dates, or we can have, you know, things like this where maybe we are not gathering, but we're still getting that need for community and that need for connection met.
Right.
There's opportunity here, I think, for creativity, and maybe we'll surprise ourselves. You know, I'm terrified of spending, I'm not terrified, you know, I like my kids, but it's just, there are going to be times where, what?
Overwhelming.
Yes, very overwhelming. There's going to be times where, you know, I'm going to be repairing the rupture a lot more frequently because there's going to be more ruptures. And so I think, you know, earlier you had said not expecting perfection, right? Like not expecting that there's a perfect way to do this because we're all experiencing this together, is a way to allow ourselves to be creative about it.
Yeah, and you may, as a parent, want to institute, you know, every hour we're going to have a cup of tea, you know, or we're going to sit and we're going to just breathe. You know, those of us who've done, you know, breathing, meditation, you know, like this is a time to have our children take those times out too, you know, like there is some opportunities here to sort of think about stress and how to get through it. And when we may have children who have a significant stress response with anxiety, and you know, may have and feelings that are very big, and you know, maybe some really hard ways that it gets expressed. And then remember, find somebody to contact Latinx parenting, or you know, contact somebody for support.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, somebody, you know, yeah, there's lots of, yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend on Facebook who had, she had said, like, if anybody else needs to talk about, you know, working out a childcare schedule, let's talk about it. And I said, can we share this on our page? You know, so if anybody is in LA or Orange County or wherever you are, you know, we're happy to share whatever creative opportunities are out there so that parents don't have an extra burden if they, you know, if they feel that pressure for, and may, you know, have to leave their kids. Let's create opportunities so that they don't have to do that. I reached out to my daughter's Girl Scout troop and I said, if any of you want to leave the kids, you know, my house is open. I have the privilege of staying home. And so I think that you're right. There's so much opportunity here for that kind of support.
Right.
And our relationship will deepen, you know, our relationships will deepen because of it.
Yeah, and remember, it's a beautiful time to really help children understand the needs of the elderly, you know, and that elderly people need to be kept safe and protected. And, you know, there's sort of not many opportunities that we have to sort of talk about that and to maybe actualize that in a way that's, you know, and knowing who's on your street. You know, that the Red Cross has something really interesting about sort of really getting together with knowing 15 families, say, in your block, and really, you know, we can't go door to door, but we can figure out ways to, that's a resource for people to look into, but ways to reach out. And if you know somebody is figuring out, you know, baking and taking something to the door, you know, not going in, dropping it 6 feet away at the door, or, you know, there are ways to model some really lovely caring, you know, And also remember that the school district has teamed up with PBS, you know, for
Mhm.
those who have children who are old enough, those might be programs that. So I think there's lots of resources. There are places that are offering food.
Yeah, this is LAUSD.
LAUSD. I also know in this community, the Dream Center is offering, this is Echo Park Silver Lake, is offering 3 meals a day to children.
Yeah,
So,
Santa Ana Unified is doing that as well.
yeah. So, and I think the school district is opening 40 childcare centers.
Wow.
They haven't named which ones yet, but resource centers. So, you know, there are resources,
Yeah.
and it's unprecedented. You know, it's unfolding. We
Yeah.
don't know. And that's that, you know, definition of dance with fear
Mm.
and uncertainty, and
Hmm.
strength of heart.
Yeah.
And, you know, the strength of heart comes from that caring for ourselves, empathy for ourselves, trying to have some of our support needs met,
Hmm.
and being able to be there in ways that are very concrete for our children.
Yeah.
Wonderful opportunity to play, and yet for many of us, play is
Difficult.
difficult. So
Hmm.
we may have to, you know, really make an effort to learn some new card games, you know, like, you know, and to invent games. And I wish there was I wish we'd all been dropped off a toolkit of all these things on our doors before all this happened, and we haven't. We have to create this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I would imagine that, you know, certain limits have to be set also with other adults. You and I were talking before this, and my parents, my dad has to take the bus to get radiation treatments. My mom refuses to stop going to the casino. And so I'm just trying to think about like how to be able to hold empathy for them and also create these limits to protect our families.
That's right.
And really remember what the priority is. And you had mentioned this at the beginning, you know, the things that we could say to our children, you know, abuelito's not able to come today, or tita's not able to come today because of these things. And so maybe what are some other like scripts, what are some other things that we can
Yeah.
say to our children, maybe preschool age
Yeah,
and school
I
age?
think that's really important. And of course, there are different ages of children. With young children, one wants to tell the narrative is that, you know, we have to find the words that connect us. Right now, there's a bug, there's a virus that is in our community. In fact, it's all around the world, and we're being asked to take care of ourselves, and we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to keep us safe and protected in our home. You know,
Yeah.
no, we're going to not do some of the things that we usually do because we're going to keep ourselves safe. And this is what people who know a lot about this virus are asking us to do. And we're going to do this. You know, make a book about it. I don't think you have to get majorly technical. You know, but this is a bug that spreads, and people have to be very careful not to catch it. And this is what we're doing, not to catch it.
Yeah.
With older kids, the language becomes a little more complex, and maybe they want to know a little more about it. But it's the same message about we're going to do what we've been asked to do to keep ourselves safe and protected.
Yeah.
And, you know, you will find ways to talk about the virus that works for your children. Older adolescents might want to do some research into it and really formulate, you know, some adolescence is an amazing time of creativity. They might have some incredible insight, you know, that they can share. So I think one of the things we don't want to do is make it more complicated than it is for little children. Sometimes what do I say and how do I say? It's actually a pretty simple narrative. There's a virus that's gone out. It's all over the world. And, you know, one of the beautiful things that we're going to help do in our family is keep it from spreading to everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to be safe in our house. We're going to be protected in our house. We're going to talk to our friends so they're safe and protected. To me, that's, and the things we're going to do, we're concrete things we're going to do. We're going to wash our hands, you know, all the very specific things that we have to do. And we're going to sing. What song should we sing today? Is it Happy Birthday twice? Is it Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star once? Is it ABCs? You know, what are we going to do? And these new routines have to become institutionalized. Children will push back against them, just like they push back against brushing their teeth.
Right.
You know? And yet this is what we've been asked to do. This is what we all need to do. And of course, older kids can hold some of them, but they may push, you know, they may even sneak out the door, you know.
Yeah.
No, you know, we have to have some sort of routines. So don't make it more complicated. Keep the story simple.
Yeah.
And if you see that children are feeling afraid, I know this is a little bit scary, isn't it? To think that there's this virus in all of our communities. Hold the fear. At the same time, we know what we're doing. We know how to keep our family healthy. We know, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and so that brings me to just the question of how honest, right? Like how transparent can we be about our own feelings? And maybe that just depends on our relationship that we have with our children and whether they're used to that. But I'm wondering, and this came up in our class last week, a parent had asked, you know, is it okay or is it not okay? And there's always that question, right? Like, is this okay? Is that not okay? But just saying like, I feel scared, you know, I feel scared too. And it's going to be okay when, you know, when we do this. To model that, you know, because I feel like our children are looking to us and there's, you know, I can pretend everything's okay, but I feel like at some point they're going to feel an inauthenticity to that, right? And so maybe just depending on their age or development, the relationship that they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something we have to practice a lot, isn't it? Is not to put all of our fear and anxiety for whatever topic on our children's shoulders, you know? And yet we are acting from a place of fear. That's why, you know, we're listening to what the schools, we're not sending you to school. The schools are closed, the public schools. We're not, you know, we're not going to go to the supermarket unnecessarily. We are really taking this, and that's the way I'm managing my fear, because this is scary. This is new to me. I've never, you know, you've never lived through this. I've never lived through something like this. And so, yes, the big picture is a little bit scary, is big scary, a little bit. And yet I want to be a model for my children on how I'm managing that. Right? The problem is if we're running to the supermarket and get in Costco line at 6 in the morning, you know, or running to buy all the whatever it is in the supermarkets, we're actually communicating very overtly panic, right, and fear. And so how do we, you know, how do we have self-awareness about ourselves and our feelings and how to manage that? Right.
And in an ideal world, like we would have all already have practiced this, right? Since before we were even parents. But
yeah, but you know, nobody could have predicted. Well, I certainly couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a time that we're charting new paths here. And, you know, I'm looking forward to hearing from parents and teachers how they do go forward. I've got some thoughts about that, but we're all going to be discovering our own journey here. And I hope that, you know, people will take opportunities to keep communicating through chat lines or like you have here, where people can share what they've done and what's worked for them and how they're managing their fear and anxiety. We know about self-regulation. We know about tools of breath, breathing, and the importance of getting out and exercise. Don't forget to take your children on exercise. They can't go to playgrounds. They can
We can dance. We've been doing a lot of dancing.
They can take walks, you know, in non-crowded areas. They can, if they have bikes, they can ride bikes. And, you know, don't forget the importance of that. But I'm hoping that we'll have a rich discussion and a rich sharing of parents and be building up, which we all can build up our understanding from everybody's experiences. Because we surely are going to discover some new ways that we hadn't known about to get through this.
Yes, and you had mentioned the making of books earlier, and so I'm going to just share that as part of, for everybody that has attended today's webinar, we're going to compile this list of resources, and that maybe that can be a list for them too, is just like the how to make books video and helping people kind of, you know. And I think that, again, like we may feel this panic and this fear, but there is opportunity for our connection to deepen with our children, with each other. You know, this is a time of solidarity, I think, global solidarity. And so a lot of things are becoming very clear because we are in this like collective state of survival. And so it's like, you know, we actually, it would be really great to have universal health care, you know.
Well,
and
absolutely. There's certainly some really big political issues here for
that could go on a whole other,
well, we can go on a whole other tangent about that. And
right.
at this point, yeah, and that's, some people might find that, you know, that social justice activism is actually what will feed them and have that sense of, you know, joining in a bigger community voice. You know, this is certainly the year to think about that, isn't it?
Yeah, and to reflect on our values around that. You know, we had just posted on our Instagram something around the Gabriel Fernandez case and that documentary. And so I'm thinking about all of the parents who are really stressed because of this and are not going to be able to self-regulate, and children will be hurt. And so I feel like for us, it's that much more crucial to keep pushing and to keep holding this, you know, and people will say, well, it's not possible. And it's like, no, we are going to make it so that we end this cultural violence.
And those people who are part of church communities, you may not be going to churches, to your church, and yet use those social networks that you have in those communities. You know, if you reach out to people that you haven't seen. I mean, there's a lot that we can do. And I mean, thank God we're at a time with all the social media. This is a time not to disparage it. This is a time to really think about how to use it in the most creative ways. And what are our communities? Maybe the community of the children in our classroom is going to be the class. That's who I'm going to make sure I stay in touch with, you know? I mean, like, I'm hoping that we will realize that if we're able, there is a lot of connectedness and community support we can maybe have never had to do before, never thought of doing, never reached out to those parents. And you're right, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be longing for us to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. A time of great stress, we'll probably see spanking rise, rise, threats and bribes and, you know, rise. And, you know, if you're a person who sees yourself getting really stressed and tense and losing some boundaries, please, 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 you know, remember the tools of, you know, taking a breath, of sitting for a moment, you know, asking your children, if you see mommy or daddy getting really stressed, and can you remind mommy, can you remind me to take a breath? Can you remind me to go get a drink of water? Like, ask our children to be allies with us in this, because, and you know, that's mutual, because them to me and me to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're in this together. We're in this together. We're going to go through a deep period of uncertainty. Every day there's going to be more information. How do we keep our values, what our family values, our values of safety, protection, compassion, understanding, kindness, how do we keep those alive?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just so great. Like, I'm just so, because honestly, I reached out to you because I don't have the answers, and I'm in a position
I don't either, Leslie.
no, I know, but I think that just like having these conversations, even after this ends, just continuing this conversation with each other, and reminding each other to ask for support, to offer support if we're in a position to.
And let's reframe that word. Maybe it's not we're looking for answers. Maybe we're just looking to be reminded of what we know,
Yes.
and what, we know the power of compassion. We know the power of empathy. We know the power of safety and protection. We know the power of connection to, and all that. And maybe there's just myriads of new ways now that we're going to be acting on our value system.
Yeah.
And, remembering that this paradigm of parenting with nonviolence is a shift. It's a shift away from using our power over in ways that are dominating and oppressive and hurtful and are full of bribes and threats and timeout. We know about that, and we are going to go through this. This is the challenge, is not to forget that we know a paradigm shift, how to hold it, move into it, power with, the importance of attachment, connection, attunement, the importance of emotions and building our children's capacity to hold multiple feelings. We know this.
Yeah. And the self-empathy, right? And the self-empathy.
We also know that when we get triggered with anger, it's because we have unmet needs. And what are those? How do we stop for a minute? Oh my gosh, and what's underneath my impatience and my anger? We have a lot of really good tools, and many of us have committed to this paradigm shift. And now this is a time we're going to be stretched.
Yeah.
We're going to be stretched. And it's the fear and uncertainty that's going to stretch us. And the courage to hold the strength of our heart, and when I think strength of heart to me is the strength of compassion, the strength of understanding. We may just say to our kids, oh my gosh, this is really hard, isn't it? We're spending all this time together today.
Yeah.
We just need to all take a breath, And
yeah. Yeah.
so I would wish everybody, what would I wish? I'm not going to say that, things like good luck. I'm not going to say that. I would wish for this journey to be one of discovery, one of support, one of knowing that the priority, the demand is to keep ourselves healthy. And we do that by doing what we know. And what we know are concrete things. Social isolation where possible. We know about the health routines of washing our hands, and we know these things. We know these things. So let's capture what we know and breathe through what we don't know. And we do know that it's going to get much worse before it gets better. We haven't, we haven't reached the tip yet.
Right.
And so we've got plenty of time to practice.
Yeah. I feel
Love each other, care for each other. Remember those people beyond our immediate circle that we can reach out to. might be a time that we actually form community connections with the parents in our kids' class that we might not have known about before, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
so
so beautiful. I'm, as you're talking, I'm feeling safe and scared at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
And so just wanted to say, like, if anybody else is out there feeling that, that's okay too, right? This is a very complex situation, and it's okay to feel complex feelings and not really guilt or shame ourselves over any of our feelings, any of our needs that are emerging.
no. So thank you, Lisette, and thank you, Leslie,
Yes.
for putting this together. And I know you'll give your resource, and can I give my email if anybody would like to reach out?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll include that in the email as well.
So my name is Ruth, but it's R Beaglehole, Beaglehole. Well, actually, let me just let you put it out. I don't need to do this.
I'm just typing it in the chat box, rbeaglehole@gmail.com.
Yeah. And I'm, there'll be more, you'll have more opportunities for these dialogues. I'll be providing more opportunities. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm wondering if you have, I know it's 2:22 right now. We'll take that as a good sign, but there were a couple of questions that came in
Okay. Mm-hmm.
from people, and one of them was, would you say play dates at home would be safe? I think that's such a personal.
Well,
Go ahead.
I see so I'm gathering that means with another child. Every time we bring another person, we're also bringing into our family all their
Biology.
people they've had a contact with,
Right.
So I'm not going to say yes or no to that question. I
Mm-hmm.
know I've read a recommendation from the health people that not to go to playgrounds and not to have play dates.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, we don't know, we don't know. That person does, that person's fine. We don't know. So
Yeah.
maybe I would say there's a risk there according to what I've read, and leave it at that.
Yeah, and maybe this is related to that, but somebody had asked, how do you make the choice to keep the child home if the school has not closed down? I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I don't think I think I've known people who, before the LA Unified School District closed, they were keeping their kids home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if your school's open, that's going to be a decision that every one of us is having to navigate through this, and I'm not a person to say yes or no to that.
I thought you were the health expert here.
No, I'm learning. I'm an older person, and, I'm taking seriously
Yeah.
what I've been told to do as an older person, which is
Yeah.
to take this seriously. And I would love to spend this time going to movies.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you're right. Like, we have a social responsibility. So it's not just about making that decision for our own families. It's about making that decision for the greater collective and community. And
if we say no to a play date that your child's really wanting, there'll be big feelings about that. Anger, sadness. Why not? Yeah. You're mean.
Yeah.
That person not going to get sick. I'm not going to get sick if so-and-so comes over, and we have to, again, this is, make it clear what our declaration to safety and protection is.
Yeah.
I know this is really hard, and we are going to keep our families safe. And this is some of the things we have to do. This won't go on forever, but it is going to go on right now for a while, and we don't know how long. And you can be disappointed, and you can be really angry. And when they've calmed down, let's see if there's another way you can connect with your friend. Can you play a game online together? I mean, we struggle with Minecraft and what's that other game called that Fortnite? And, those are certain ways kids have found to connect with others. And, we might have to put aside our judgment about some of those now.
Yeah.
And there are other things we can create. Let's call your friend and see if they have FaceTime. Let's call your friend and see if there's a way you can talk to each other every day. You know what I mean? We have to, play dates may take different forms. That's my point.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Just to stay mindful of the time, I'm gonna request that we start wrapping up. And so you said so much, and we're gonna make this recording available to everybody to play over and over again if they should choose to do that. And really quickly, somebody just mentioned that their 8-year-old did their first Zoom meetup with other kids today, facilitated by a parent who's a former teacher. It was really fun. We now have a resource we didn't know about before, which I think goes back to that creativity. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's, I hope, people will share those things with each other, because for some of us who've never heard of Zoom, that might be something that we don't know about. And of course, we also, there are children who don't have computers. And we have to be mindful that they maybe don't have FaceTime, maybe don't have, whatever. We have to be mindful and not forget to maybe write letters, write cards, drop them at the doorstep, figure out other ways that we can stay in touch with children. We have to remember that some of these things we take for granted, and maybe not what everybody has that we know.
Yeah. I didn't buy diapers at Target, but I bought envelopes to write letters. And so, yes, there's opportunity here. Lupita Chavez says, may we share the recording with others? Absolutely. You may share the recording with others. This is a free resource. We're hoping to have other conversations like it as this continues and progresses. And so again, we're going to be emailing some resources that we know about and that maybe we've utilized. If you have any resources that maybe we haven't shared before, please do send those over to myself and to Ruth. You have both of our email addresses, and we can share those on our platforms as well. So any parting words, Ruth? Anything you want to end with?
I think I shared my parting words. I just love the word courage.
Yes.
I love the strength of heart. I love the uncertainty, and I just sure hope we all come through this with, let me say, I sure hope that our wider society learns something from this.
Mm-hmm.
And, safety nets get put in for people who really need it. I sure hope that we learn ways to connect and care for each other that we might not have known before. And let's manage our fear by being connected to each other. We are all interconnected, and my safe household is connected to your safe household. Me taking care of myself is connected to your father taking care of himself, and your mother. So, that interconnectedness and well-being, and even this word thrive. How do you thrive in face of such a horrible environment? Maybe we can find ways to thrive. New resiliency within our families, and there'll be loss, and there'll be sadness, and there'll be grief, and there'll be mourning, and we may know people who get sick. That's not going to be beyond the reality. So it's just hold us all, and opportunity,
creativity,
love, opportunity for loving practice, loving kindness, opportunity for care.
And we'll keep talking about it. Again, I encourage you all to keep talking about it, even just on your own, and reach out if you need any additional support, especially if you're a parent and you're feeling that overwhelmed. We are here to support you, and make ourselves available, all of us. Yes. And so so grateful to you. So, so grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me know if there's any resources you want me to include in the email. I know that you already sent me a couple, and so I'll include those. And thank you again. Just,
Thank you for everybody who joined this call. Thank you for, and absolutely take whatever from here is that was important to you and share whatever is important for you to share. This is a time of open dialogue, this is something new, for us to maybe think about the whole being, all the children, my children, but your children. We talk about social justice for children,
yes. Your children is my child,
caring for you and my children. We're all, this is about social justice. And we've been fed so many messages about just my family and, the individual. And now it's time to think about the collective whole of children. So, and the collective whole of parenting.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Okay. We will do it again. I hope that you stay healthy and happy and whole.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.